Okay, this is Orlando Wilson, and what I want to talk about in this video is something which to me is applicable, very applicable to the training side of the business, the close protection, tactical industry, etc., and also to the operational side of the business. And this is where, if you're serious about the close protection business, you need to understand that at some point you're going to experience pain, you're going to experience hostile environments, hostile situations, so you need to be able to deal with those situations. And you need to deal with those situations responsibly. And I'll give you some examples as I go along. Now, I was having a conversation with somebody recently, and we were talking about training. And this gentleman said to me about something. He was doing a training course how many years ago, and he got hurt. And people were criticizing the instructor by saying, oh, he shouldn't have got hurt, etc. And I asked this gentleman what he'd done, and he'd done something wrong. He ended up getting hurt. Okay. He shouldn't have done what he done wrong, and then he wouldn't have got hurt, right? And I said to him, it's like, you know what? A lot of people that's criticizing the training where people get hurt. Okay, well, that's the business we're in. If you're serious about the close protection business, in the close protection business, you will be dealing with hostile situations. A lot of people are in denial about this. You have to be able to put up with abuse from people. And I'll clarify that as we go along. I'll give you an example which I found very, very strange. The British SIA close protection course, which to me is complete and utter BS. It's been BS since the beginning. The SIA has been BS since the beginning. They only brought in the conflict resolution model for the close protection course a few years ago. So I think for how many years, 18 years or something, 13 years, 16 years, they were teaching close protection courses with nothing to do with conflict resolution, self-defense, etc. And I remember talking to one instructor, and they said to me, their response to that, and I called them out on this a long time ago. Okay, but if you're in the close protection business, you're not going to be dealing with hostile situations. You're not going to be fighting with people. Really? You know what? I think that instructor was from a police background, etc. If you're from a police background and you're dealing with dignitaries, etc., in a very clean environment, yeah, they're not going to be going out and getting up to too much trouble. If you're dealing in the real close protection world, the commercial close protection world, will you be dealing with violence? Yes. Chances are, if you're traveling with clients at some point, if you're working with commercial clients at some point, you're going to be dealing with problems. That's why they're hiring you. And you need to be able to deal with problems. You need to be able to deal with abuse. You need, and I'll clarify that as we go along. And you know what? You need to, if you're going to lose your cool because somebody spits at you, pushes you, calls you names, etc., then you should not be in the close protection business. Now, from the training side of things, you know what? If you want to be a fighter and in the close protection business, you need to understand close protection. I see videos up all the time. There's videos going around on social media and they pop up where one comes to mind. There's some guys in a dojo or a boxing gym somewhere and the instructor's punching them. They got their hands behind their heads and the instructor's going around punching them. And how many people popped up on social media saying, oh, that's abuse and they're being hurt, etc. You know what? These are fighters. These guys are training to go in a ring with other fighters and beat the shit out of somebody else so they don't get the shit beaten out of them. And this is the sad fact, especially with the firearms business. There's so many people in it, in the firearms training business, that have no comprehension of dealing with violence, let alone dealing with firearms and violence. Same in the martial arts world. There's a vast majority of supposed martial arts experts, I would say, has never been in a real fucking fight. But they're out there training people how to fight, which to me is beyond my comprehension. So this is where, if you're training, and our training, some people say, you mean we like to keep things a little bit realistic. And I say to people, if you're afraid on a training course, if you're afraid to be hurt on a training course in a controlled environment, you don't belong in reality. You don't belong on the streets. Because if you're afraid on a training course in a controlled environment of being hurt, what the fuck are you going to do on the streets if you have to deal with a confrontation? You don't belong in the close protection business. Now, as far as taking abuse is concerned, I'll give you an example. in this business, you need to have a cool head, a very cool head. And you see it in a lot of places. And again, this is always in the back of my mind, especially when I'm dealing with armed people or employing armed personnel. I don't want a simple situation, a simple, let me say, a simple argument to turn into something where somebody pulls a gun and shoots somebody. This is where in the United States, a lot of people, especially law enforcement, and this is why I'm very wary of US law enforcement, a lot of US law enforcement, the slightest thing will trigger them to pull a gun out and shoot somebody. In the close protection world, you can't do that, period. Example, when I was in US, one client we had issues. A gentleman was in a custody battle with his ex-wife over the children. He had custody of the children, but the lady, unfortunately, had mental health issues. She'd been Baker acted, sectioned, etc. He had a restraining order against her, but she kept turning up, trying to take the children, etc. Our job for a while was to look after the children. The guys I had working on that, there were two guys. One was armed, one was unarmed. And again, they're my people. They're all trained up, watch body language, etc., etc. And if there was an issue, they could react very, very quickly. If they saw a weapon, they could react very, very quickly. The last resort in this situation would be for one of my guys to pull a gun out, let alone use it. The woman had mental health issues. So if she turned up and tried to cause a disturbance, take the children, etc., one of my guys, the unarmed person, would engage her, de-escalate, or the armed guy got the children out of the way. If she became violent, the guy that was dealing with her was to take it. If she was spitting at him, if she was hitting him, if she was scratching him, his job, and he understood his job, was to take it, not to respond. One, from an ethical reason, we wouldn't want the children to see anybody beating up their mother, detaining their mother, etc. So the children's welfare, mental welfare come into it. We definitely wouldn't want to see somebody, or I wouldn't want it, one of my guys pulling out a gun and shooting the lady because he thought she had a weapon. If there was an issue, then it would have been dealt with. If she had a weapon, a firearm, then it would have been dealt with. But there's no way in hell that my guys would have responded unless they were 200% certain there was a weapon and it was a complete enough, there was no other way of resolving the situation. The other thing as well, I wouldn't want it from a reputation point of view for it to be on social media where somebody working for me was seen detaining, hitting, any way using force against a female, especially a female with mental health issues. So in this situation, my guys accepted it. Okay, somebody's going to have to take a beating, possibly take a beating, deal with this woman until law enforcement gets there or the situation is de-escalated. Also, in this situation, for the client, it would help the client in his case to retain custody of the children if we had evidence that the woman did turn up and assault somebody, etc., etc. And that was the job of my guys, to take the abuse. Luckily, won that job. Everything's sorted out. We never had any major problems. The lady turned up, I think, once or twice and backed off, etc. But again, this is where in the close protection business, you have to understand use of force. You have to understand violence. And a lot of times, especially during training, you need to take punishment. You need to hurt. If you don't understand, if you are, even the situation with that lady that I was talking about, you know what, if you're afraid to be spat at, if you're afraid to be scratched, if somebody spits at you and you shoot them because, oh my God, it could be a biological weapon or something, you know what, fuck off. You don't belong in the close protection business and you're a liability. So just my thoughts on taking punishment, etc., which is part of the close protection business. It's part of my world anyway. It's part of the tactical world. It's part of the self-defense world, etc. If you can't take punishment, go become a cop or something, right? In the meantime, be good, stay safe, stay out of trouble, and don't forget to follow me along on social media and check out my books on Amazon.